Welcome back everyone! This video will be a little bit different than my usual sewing content, but I really hope you still like it, because I had so much fun making these mushroom crowns that I just want to make headdresses all day every day now. So if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know. For now, let's gather our supplies and let me show you how to make one of these crowns. So I made these mushrooms last night. And I will show you how to make these in just a second. We're gonna see which ones work out and then I might make some more. And I have loads of these stuff from the hobby shop. So let's get started. I am really excited. To start, you will need a comfortable headband and a styrofoam head. Or if you don't have that, a head-shaped object. Maybe the right-sized bowl taped to a table could also work. I started by hiding most of the hairband with this Icelandic moss. I got two colors from it, green and white, and used them alternately. Then I started adding some faux vegetation to it. There isn't really a scientific method to this, it's more like picking up stuff and placing it on various points of the crown and see what sticks. But before we get too far into it, let me show you how to make the mushrooms. For these, I used brown and white polymer clay. You can start by breaking off a good chunk of it and warming it between your palms until it becomes malleable. Once it's soft enough, you can take a smaller ball from it and start shaping it into a dome with your fingers. Once you're happy with the shape, set it aside so it can harden back up a little bit. If you want to speed up this process, you can also put it in the freezer. While you wait for that, you can make the stalks. These are pretty self-explanatory. You just roll some clay out and cut sections off. The gills are probably the trickiest part of the mushrooms, because you have to be very careful not to ruin the caps you already made. I used brown clay, shaped a disc from it and smooshed it in carefully with my fingers. I found that a smooth surface, like a plane of glass, can help with this process immensely. Then you make a little hole in the middle where you will glue the trunk later, and you can start cutting the gills with a scalpel. I like to bake the caps and the stalks separately and glue them together afterwards, so they don't get misshaped in the oven by mistake. Before baking though, I'm using chalk pastel to shade the mushrooms caps. For this crown, I made some morels as well, and that's even easier. It's just an elongated shape with the strategically placed holes and the same type of stalk. These I bake together, as they are not so outlandishly shaped to get ruined. So this is where we are at the moment. I am pretty happy with it, especially this side I really like. I think this side needs a bit more work, and generally I will definitely puff around with it a bit more. But I still have a couple of ideas that I want to do. First of all, I had some ideas of hanging stuff off from the side. Maybe something that looks like a vine with some leaves at the end, or maybe just some beads or chain with some beads on it. I'll have to see what kind of beads I have, because I might not have anything that works with this vibe. Otherwise, I was also thinking maybe adding 2 little deer horns, which could be quite cute. But then I have to make the deer horns from like foam clay or something. We'll see. I might make a mock-up from paper or foil and see if it gets too much with the little horns. I don't know. I have to think about it. I think I'm gonna go through my stash and see what I have and then come back to you with an update. So this is basically the extent of what I found. I have basically this green chain that I think it could work, but I don't really have good beads for it, like maybe this one is the best of all. I have some gold chain. The other idea I had is this cotton type of yarn that I could just paint green somehow and glue moss onto it, which might work. Although it's not the heaviest thing, so it doesn't drape as nicely as the chain. I also have these beetle wings, which I think are pretty cool. Might be able to use these. I decided on using the chains as they have a really nice weight to them, and added leaves and moss to their ends. Some baby deer antlers from foil to test how it will incorporate into the overall design, and I was pretty much happy with the shape and size of them. So using these mock-ups as a base, I added every cosplayer's best friend to it, the foam clay. It's a super sticky Play-Doh-like substance that once it dries, it becomes hard but very slightly springy, and it's not just super lightweight, it's also sandable. It's my first time using it and I can already see why people like it so much. Although it is a bit tricky to get used to it first, because it does behave quite differently to other clays. Once you have the general shape down, you can wet it to smooth it out, and I also carved some ridges into it for more texture. So I think these are ready to be painted. It's been 48 hours since I made them, and I can't wait to finally put them on. I painted them using white, yellow, brown and black acrylic paint. I started with a darker brown towards the base and worked backwards from there, dry brushing white over the bumps, which gave it a really nice shading. I also tried to add some more texture with a sponge, but actually it was too blunt and unwieldy, and I think you're better off with just a brush in this case. At the end, I just used the sponge to wipe off excess paint. Finally, I also added some warmer brown tone to fit in better with the color scheme of the mushrooms. By the next morning, the antlers dried and I could finally put them in place. Then I glued some moss around their bases. And it's done. I think I overboard the supplies a little bit because I have so much left. So I was thinking maybe I could make a second crown. out of these supplies. I mean, I have them already, I have everything for it. I was thinking that from these white ones I make a second crown. That's sort of the creepy nighttime version of it for Halloween. So maybe this video will be a bit longer than I thought. This time, let's start with the mushrooms. I was aiming to make these translucent wispy ones that grow in clusters, so I made some white and some more yellowish. You can basically use any tool as a base for the cap, but maybe the easiest is to make it on top of these spherical ones. You make a little ball from clay, then you pop it on the tool, so you can pinch the tops into shape. Going off of these pictures, I try to fray the edges too. The trunks are literally just a long spaghetti, cut into sections. The only trick here is to make them all wiggly before baking, so they have a fun shape once they are hard. And don't forget to blush them before they go into the oven. This is what happens when you by mistake misread the dials and set your oven to 180 degrees instead of 130 and leave your stuff in for half an hour. Yeah, hours of work ruined in 30 minutes. So now I gotta redo all of this, but I was running out of white polymer clay, so I went to the shop, and there is something good in everything bad, because I found this, which is a glow-in-the-dark Fimo, which I think would look pretty cool. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty bummed about this. But the thing is, to paraphrase that guy from the D&D movie, never stop failing, because if you stop, then you failed. So yeah, I took some time, had a nice Starbucks coffee, and I'm ready to get back to it again, making some new mushrooms. Maybe they will be even better than these ones, because I have learned from my mistakes. It sucks though. So I made some new ones from the glow-in-the-dark clay and shaded them pink on the top. And I'm a lot more happy with them than the ones that got burned. I also made a little bird skull from foam clay that I used as the centerpiece to give the headdress a bit spookier vibe. I couldn't paint it yet as it needs to dry for 48 hours, but I temporarily glued it there so I can start working on the crown. Another very easy way to make these wispy little translucent mushrooms is with hot glue gun. You just plop some straight onto a glass for the caps and float some lines for the trunk. Once they harden, you can pry them off and glue them together. And voila! Before you know it, you have more mushrooms than you can manage. I used these stamen. Apparently they called stamen. Strange, I never heard that word before in my life. Anyway, I got them at the craft store because I thought I could use them as some weird fungi spores sprouting all over the place. After 2 days, I could finally paint a little skull. I mostly just went into the crevices and darkened them to give it more dimensionality. Now that the skull was in its final resting place, I made it my mission to overgrow it with spores and fungi. With this crown, I really wanted the mushrooms to glow in the dark, and I was contemplating making this viral fairy light hack, but at the end I decided against it as I wanted this crown to be light and comfortable, and none of those can be achieved if there's a huge battery pack attached to it somewhere. So I opted for the good old-fashioned glow-in-the-dark clay and paint. And with that, we are done.